Good morning, Rebels. Good to see you guys this morning. As the screen says there, my name is Brandon, lead pastor here along with my wife, Laura. We have a distinct honor and privilege of pastoring this amazing church with amazing people who show up on Labor Day weekend to church. Come on. You guys are the real deal. And this morning, we're going to jump into September, which is Serve Month here. It is our self-proclaimed title for September, Serve Month. And it's going to be amazing. As you heard, so many different opportunities to serve in the church and as the church. We serve in the church. Got a lot of people serving in the church this morning. There's people over there with your kids serving so that you can relax and have a good time and encounter Jesus. There are people serving in some town that I don't even know of in the woods about 2 hours from here with your kids. About 20 of our kids are on retreat this weekend with Pastor Brian and Rachel, and they've got their kids team holding it down over there for our kids here. So amazing things going on when people make a decision to serve. And that's why we made sure that this month is all about serving. And as you can see, they're zip lining, they are kayaking, they are going through some curriculum to encounter Jesus. And so such an amazing group of kids volunteers and kids pastors that make sure that it is super special for Sundays inside these walls and for any other day outside of these walls. And so this morning, before I jump in, I just wanted to, thank you guys so much. Last week, our family was kind of hit with a unexpected, left hook from the devil as we got a phone call that Pastor Charlie was not doing well. You knew that. My wife's father, my father-in-law, Charlie, had to be rushed to the emergency room, and we prayed as a church, and God responded. And just wanted to update you guys. He is at home. He's watching online this morning. We need to pray for his speedy recovery, pray that his kidneys recover well. He goes in for a checkup on Thursday, I believe, and we're just believing God for a full recovery so that he can be back here next Sunday worshiping with us. So thank you guys for praying and believing with us. It is such a privilege to have a family that sticks together and prays together and believes together, and we see God move when we do that. This morning, the title of my message is, I got this. I got this. Look at your neighbor and say, I got this. Now, whoever said that to you, say, what do you got? I got this. Say, listen. Now say, I got this. This morning, as we talk about serving and what it means to serve, there's no greater example of serving than Jesus. If you're in church, you've been in church, if you showed up at church this morning, chances are that you came here not really to hear me, not really to see me. Hopefully you came here to see Jesus. Because if you came here for any other reason, if you came here for the lattes, as good as they are back there, if you came here for a much-needed reprieve from your children, if you came here because you ain't been anywhere all week and this is the only place that you can come where people smile at you, that's great. But if you came here for any other reason other than Jesus, you're going to be sorely disappointed because that's all we got to offer. And Jesus was someone who did not need to serve, yet made it a point to serve. And if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, here's point number one. Followers of Jesus, follow Jesus. If you're not following Jesus, then you're following yourself. Let's just be honest. If you're not following Jesus, what does it mean to follow? It means to walk in the way of Jesus. To live like he lived. Nobody's perfect. We don't expect anybody to be perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Ain't nobody perfect. But we follow a perfect Savior who left a perfect example for us. And if we're not following that, then we're following ourselves. In Matthew chapter 6, Jesus gives these instructions. It's not going to pop up on the screen. You have to go look at it for yourself. But I just wanted to make note that if you're following Jesus in Matthew 6, he says, when you pray, pray like this. And then he says, when you give like this. And then he says, when you fast, fast like this. So if you're following Jesus, you don't have to ask, God, do you want me to pray? God, do you want me to give? And should I fast at certain occasions in my life? He didn't say if, he said when you do it. If you're following Jesus, then you got to be following Jesus. And I bring up Matthew chapter 6 just so that it's kind of the sandwich. It's like when you pray, when you give, when you fast, right? What about when you serve? When you serve. In John chapter 13, this is where we're going to be this morning. It's going to pop up on the screen. If you got a Bible, you can turn there to John chapter 13, because Jesus gives the example, probably the greatest example to his disciples. And it says in verse 1, it was just before the Passover festival. Jesus knew that the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. It says the evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. So, if we look at that scripture, it's John's account of the Last Supper. It is the night in which Jesus was about to be betrayed. And Luke tells us that prior to this happening, the disciples were sitting up in the room arguing about who was the greatest, right? I read from John's gospel because John was the self-proclaimed one whom Jesus loved. He gave himself that title. Over and over again in the New Testament, you find John referring to himself in the third person as the one whom Jesus loves. Don't you think the other disciples got a little bit annoyed with that fool? We all know a John in our life. Yet they're up there arguing. I can imagine Peter being like, yo, I walked on water, bro. And Bartholomew like, shut up. And everybody's like, you shut up. Nobody even knows who you are. But Luke tells us that they're arguing like, who's the greatest? I'm the greatest. Pastor Chris read it to us in our morning huddle this morning. They ask him, who's the great? Jesus asked, who's the greatest? One sitting at the table or the one serving? And they're like, of course, the one sitting at the table. It's like, no, you got it backwards. You got it backwards. And see, this account of the pre-meal argument is us. We are those disciples. All throughout Scripture, you see the disciples, the one whom Jesus chose. He chose each and every one of them, not for their skills, not because they had good looks, not because they spoke eloquently. He chose them. He chose them in spite of all of that. And that's us. They weren't perfect. They made mistakes, yet they were following Jesus. They were learning from Jesus. And here they are arguing right before Jesus is about to be betrayed. And we pick it up in verse 3. It says, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power and that it had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Now, washing of feet was a pretty common thing in those days. Because if you lived in ancient Bible times, you wore sandals. And you walked around dirt-paved streets in which the animals that you owned would relieve themselves. Streets in which people would relieve themselves and then throw it into the streets. And so that over time breaks down, and it's still what it is, even though it looks like dirt. And so people are walking around with crusty toes. And when you would come into a home, it was common practice that someone would wash your feet. Now, who's washing the feet? In our culture and today, you invite people over to your house for dinner, and they come in and you say, hey, can I get your purse? Can I get your coat? Can I get you a drink? It's the common courtesy of having someone in. In those days, it was, hey, can I wash your feet? You might think that's weird, but do you want somebody walking all over your floor? I know my wife doesn't want nobody walking on her floors with some donkey dung stuck to them, you know? She's like, wash the feet. But in those days, it was not common for you to wash the feet. One of your house staff would wash the feet. You're not going to do that. Yet Jesus here is giving the disciples an illustration of what the kingdom of heaven is like. He says, hey, I'm going to wash your feet. I know that I'm King Jesus. You know that. I'm the prophesied one. I'm the Messiah, the soon to be crucified and risen and ascend to heaven. That's me. I've told you these things. That's who I am. 100% man, 100% God. But let me just tell you something. You want to talk about who's the greatest of these? The greatest of these is the one who serves. And let me just show you this illustration. If you read on the chapter, it gives some explanation of what exactly he was doing. But it's the same thing when it comes to following Jesus in modern day culture. When the world says, hey, focus on you, me. It's all about me. It's all about mine. It's all about what I want, what I need, looking out for number one. It's all about me. That's what culture says. And if you find yourself lining up with culture, 9 times out of 10, you're on a path to self-destruction. If you find yourself lining up with culture and agreeing with culture, 9 times out of 10, you're on the wrong road. And Jesus says, hey, look, here's what you need to understand. If you want to be first, be last. And if you want to be greatest, be the least of these and serve. Serve. I'm going to wash your feet because that's what you need to understand. When I'm gone, that's what you need to understand. So the greatest of these is the one who serves. And if we're following Jesus, then we got to follow Jesus. And he gives this example. It says, follow me now. What does that look like within the church? The only thing that Jesus ever established on the planet was the church, not a government, not a college. He didn't establish anything except for the church. And he said, the church is the hope of the world. And yes, we gather in a building, but this is not the church. We know that. The church is not these 4 walls. The church is you. The church is me. And if we are not serving, then we are not the church. If we're not looking for opportunities to serve in the church and as the church out there in the world, then we are not the church. Here at Rebel, it means that we are owners. That's what we call it. We call those who other churches might call members, we call owners. That's why when they get up here and talk about, hey, we're about to go into a time of giving, if you're an owner in the house. Why? Because members have rights, but owners have responsibilities. And owners will give up their seat on a packed Sunday when we got 20 child dedications going on and we ain't got no seats left in the buildings. Owners will go stand in the lobby and watch on a screen. Why? So that somebody else might see Jesus in a different way. Somebody who's visiting, who never goes to church, somebody who's giving God one last chance might just experience him. Owners don't treat this church like a rental. When's the last time you got a rental car and you decided to wash it before you took it back? No, that's their responsibility. I put some gas if I need it, I drive it like I stole it, and I send it back. You don't care if your kids get grass all over the seat. You don't care if they eat chocolate in there. You don't give a rip. This is a rental. It ain't mine. It's only mine for a few days. And then it's somebody else's responsibility. I don't care how many miles I put on it. But think about your dream car. Think about it. What is your dream car? What might that be? It's okay. It's okay to want things. God doesn't mind you having things. He minds things having you. So as long as your things don't have you, then he doesn't mind you having them. What is your dream car? Since you guys are so quiet this morning, look at somebody next to you and tell them what your dream car is. Thank you. Y'all are way too quiet for me this morning. I'm about to come out there. Here's the reality. Okay, that's a little too much. Stop. Here's the reality, right? Is that if you were to get your dream car, if somebody was to show up at your house today and say, hey, here's your 88 Civic, is that what you said? Yes. Right? Here is your 2022 Range Rover all blacked out, you know what I'm saying? Somebody was to show up at my house. Lord knows that I'm gonna take care of that thing. Lord knows I ain't letting no kids in that car. Lord knows I'm parking 50 spots away in the H-E-B parking lot. Lord knows I'm getting a membership to wash. I'm calling up my friend Mauricio to come over here and detail that thing anytime it gets messed up. Why? Because I own that sucker. And I'm going to treat it like I own it. It's the same thing when you have ownership in building the kingdom of God through Rebel Church. Owners have responsibilities. And we treat this joint like it can save people's lives and change destinies and alter marriages and bring lost home. And so what does that mean? That means we serve this place, not because of anything other than the fact that we know that when we gather as a family, when we got family, every Sunday is a family reunion up in here. And we're coming in here to celebrate all that God has done throughout the week. And we just want to bring people into that. And we invite people into that. And we get excited, right? Remember the last time you had a friend show up to church with you? And you showed up early, you want to make, are the greeters doing what they're supposed to do? And you didn't shave this morning. Good God, I can't have him on the greet team and he didn't shave this morning. Now the kids, they got kids. You should be concerned if you're an owner in the house. Because it's our responsibility to make sure that people can encounter Jesus in an excellent way. Where their kids are taken care of, where they feel welcomed. We treat this place not like a rental, but like a dream car. Don't be fooled into ever thinking that anything is too small for you to do. Talking about two things, serving in the church and serving as the church. Listen, can I just tell you something? We, in this church, we have someone, who I will not mention their name, who is a vice president of a mortgage company who serves every single Sunday up in here. Doesn't have to. They don't have to serve. They got no earthly reason to serve, but he's got a heavenly mind, and he loves serving up in this place. Nothing is too small for you to do. Why? Because if you are too big to serve, then you are too small to lead anything. You're too small to lead your family. You're too small to lead your job. You're too small to lead anything. You shouldn't even have been a line leader in kindergarten if you cannot serve. Nothing. Don't ever be fooled into thinking, that's beneath me. I've got so much greater in me, God. I will not stoop to that level. No, he said, I'm going to get down and I'm going to wash some dirty, stanky feet. You boys got some proud hearts, and there's a lot of dirty feet to be washed. Don't ever be fooled into thinking anything is too small for you to do. We pick it up in verse 12. It said, when he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I've done for you. Very, very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you know them. No, if you do them. Jesus is making a point to go, look, I've set this example before you, and it's not enough for you to be able to know this, but you need to put some action behind it. It's not enough for you to be able to tell people, oh, yeah, so good to serve, when you ain't served a day in your life. It's one thing though, you know what? It'd be really awesome for you to serve the homeless community down in San Antonio. Have you done it? Nope. He's saying everybody's got a gifting. Everybody's got something in them. You can't do everything, but you can do something. And that's the point Jesus is trying to make, is that if you will just do, if you will just get out of the mindset of it's about me, it's about and get into the mindset of we. It's about us. What can I do to serve somebody around me that God has placed within the confines of my reach and my ability? Jesus wants actions, but he wants it with the right attitude. It's not just about doing. Have you ever told your kids to do something? Our daughter Mia is this way. You can tell her to do something and she'll do it with the wrong attitude. We just want to do it again. Do you have kids like that? Am I the only one? Just like clean up your room, like fine. Did it. Come here. Jesus wants us to do it, but to do it with the right attitude. Because action without attitude will not get blessing. It won't happen. God, I'm doing everything. I'm just doing it. I'm doing it with the right attitude. Attitude determines your altitude. And here at Rebel, serving is who we are. It's not just what we do. Serving is who we are. It's not just what we do. We do what we do. Our kids team, they'll serve your kids with the right attitude. And if they don't have the right attitude, out. We don't need nobody with a messed up, jacked up, funky face attitude back there trying to minister to kids. Bye. Bye, girl, bye. Our welcome team, right? We do what we do with the right attitude, but it's not just what we do, it's who we are. We serve. When we show up in numbers. When we show up, people take notice. Why? Because it's not just, I'm just doing this. No, we get it. You have to be able to get it. Why am I doing what I'm doing? It's not for me, but it's to make him known. It's to make him great. It's to glorify him. See, we are the church, and we are called to live out the mission of Jesus, and we get to do it together. We say it all the time around here, and you've heard us say, we're not kind of like family. We are family. We are family. And we get to do this together. Everything that we do, we get to do together. So much so that during the week, we have people showing up here all week long. They don't have a job here. They're just showing up, hey, y'all need, what can I do? And before you know it, there's a crowd of people. Like, what are y'all doing? It's Wednesday at 2 p.m. We just want to get together. We're just hanging out, and the church becomes a hub of community and action, and life changes going on, and conversations are happening, and people are doing life together, and people are praying together and believing together. And then people are going out and serving people together. It's not just what we do, it's who we are, and we're called to live out this mission that Jesus very plainly laid out for us. And we don't have to do it alone. We get to do it together. And here's the thing, because everybody always thinks, well, what's in it for me? What's in it? I get it. That's a first reaction. It's like, if I'm gonna give up time, if I'm gonna give up energy, if I'm gonna give up this, if I'm gonna give up, then what's in it for me? That's a natural first reaction until you actually get in the groove serving. And so you start living a lifestyle of looking for opportunities to serve people. And when you do that, this is what you find. When you serve others, God uses you to change people's lives, and there's nothing like it. But the first life that he changes is yours. He will use you, and it will be amazing when you can meet a need, and when you can bless somebody, and when you can serve somebody, and when you can pray and believe God and see miracles and see healing, and when you can meet the need of someone who is out and destitute. It's amazing. But here's the thing, is that the first life that always gets changed is yours. I remember when I was in high school, my parents started a church. And my dad had always served in the church, but not as a lead pastor, because his grandfather, who had started a church down in Seadrift, Texas, when he passed away of a heart attack in his 50s. And my dad's dad, naturally, his dad started the church, pastored it for 20 some odd years, passed away. And then my dad's dad, so my grandpa, took over the church within a few months. A few people on the front row of that church had kicked my grandfather out of the church that his dad had started. And so my dad saw that and said, nope, it ain't happening to me. I'll do everything else in the church except what you've called me to do, God, which is pastor. Until about the age of 40, when God got a hold of his heart and said, you ain't running no more. You ain't hiding no more. I've called you to do this. You're going to do it. You got 4 sons, stoutly and of age, to help you start this. And so we became what was known in the Old Testament as slave labor. And I was a junior in high school, and they started the church at Heritage Middle School. And soon after that, they moved to the Rent and Go Video on Highway 87. And when it would rain like it rained this week, the parking lot would flood. and we would have to get these little canoes and get people from the parking lot to the front doors of the church, hoping that it didn't make it into the church. That's neither here nor there. The bottom line is this, just fun facts, is that we didn't have a choice. My mom and dad said, "You gonna serve in the church." And my first job was with the toddlers. And I could hand out animal crackers and juice and talk about David and Goliath like nobody's business. But what was forced in my household, you're going to serve. What was forced became foundational. And I will never, ever forget what God did in my life as a 16-year-old kid serving in the toddler room at Heritage Middle School. It developed in me a love for the church, for the life-giving, destiny-altering power of God's church, local church, being the local church, serving, giving, loving. It was foundational for me, those lessons that I learned, and that's why our kids, the same way. It's like, here we go, we're starting a church. I was a little bit younger than my dad when we got going, but kids are gonna serve. You're gonna serve back in kids, you're gonna serve. They want to serve. But it's a foundation of first parenting your kids and not letting your kids parent you. The Bible says this, he says, and I practiced this, y'all. Practiced this last night. Last night, I took Judah to the UT game to watch him whoop up on University of Louisiana Monroe. My wife said, why? I said, because the Bible says, train your child in the way he should go. When he's old, he will not depart from it. I'm just kidding. She did not say that, but I'm just doing God's work, okay? And the same goes for you. If you're not serving, what is the example you're setting for your kids? I just don't. Nope. Everybody's got gifts. Everybody's got talent. Serve others. God changes life, but the first life he changes is yours. It's not a magic button, okay? Don't get me wrong. It's not like, I signed up for Welcome Team, or I went down to Cub to feed the homeless, or I paid for somebody's groceries at HEB, and all of a sudden it's like this light shines upon you and life gets easy, and it's like, Pastor was right. No. It's not a magic button, but it is a required step for life change. Serving is a required step towards spiritual maturity. If you want to get out of diapers at 45 years old, you need to start serving. And if you don't get that, I'm sorry. In God's church, we get to serve each other, right? You saw those parking guys out there in their yellow vests this morning just directing you, like, first-time guests, flash your lights. Let's take them right here. They're out there with umbrellas when they need you. You got people over in kids. Wednesday night, youth, you had people up in here serving so that your youth can encounter Jesus. You got people that come up here during the week and vacuum up in here and clean and spray down these seats so you know what you're sitting on is clean. You got people that come up and clean, and then they pray over every single seat, laying their hands on it, believing God that whoever sits here on this Sunday morning is going to experience God and see him for who he is and experience life change. It happens every single week. You don't see it, but it happens, and we get to serve each other, right? Worship is the hardest working crew in the building. You think they just get up here and sound that magical? Oh, they got to be up here for rehearsal on Tuesday nights, rehearsing for a few hours. They got to get here early on Sunday morning to rehearse through the set. And guess what? That means the media, the production, the tech team, they all got to be here. But they would do it if there was 1 or 1,000 people up in here. Why? Because serving is not what we do, it's who we are. See, we don't only serve each other in the church, we get to serve as the church, as the body, as the living, breathing organism of life change beyond these walls. See, we can't move in power outside of these walls until we join in unity within these walls. And we serve each other, and we lift each other up, and we're in community, and we're looking for opportunity. Sal, what do you need? Battling cancer right now. Let's be praying for Sal. Let's be lifting it up. Let's be believing God for another miracle. Beat it twice already. Let's go. 3 times a charm. Let's get it out of here for good. Let's lift people up. Going through a rough marriage. All right, let's believe God. Hey, get to Rebel U, Story of Marriage. We got a marriage class about to kick off. You need to be there. Let's lift up, let's support. Hey, you're going through a rough time, you lost somebody in your life. I've been through that. Let's grab coffee this week. Let's sit down and be the church together. Let's lift each other up. That way, when we encounter somebody outside of these walls, we've already got the training, we've already got the repetition, we've already got the experiences of doing it within the house, right? Because if you can't serve your family, how do you expect to serve? Don't work. If you can't serve your family well, if you can't lead in that capacity within the home, whatever that home looks like, you might be a single parent thinking like, I ain't even got time to catch my breath. I don't even know if I can take care of these kids. No, you have in you everything that you need for this season that you're walking through. And there are people around you, if you will get in community, if you will stay in community, that God will be Jireh in your life and everything that you need, wherever you go. See, we all have different gifts. Everybody's got different gifts. Everybody is not called to the same thing, to serve in the same way. It's just it. You might not like kids, and the kids you had might not like you. We're not going to put you in kids. You need to stay away from kids. That might not be your gifting, but anybody ever taken a giftings test? Have you taken one of those? That's not a lot of hands. Y'all need to get to growth track, because in growth track, week 3, I believe it is, week 3 is you go through a giftings test. You're like, I don't want to take no test. Yes, you do. You need to find out what God has gifted you with, because it doesn't just work in the church. It works outside of the church. It works in your home. It works in your marriage. If you understand the gifting that God has given you, you can serve this world better. Growth track happens every Sunday morning before service, 9:15. So when it starts, you can sign up in the lobby after church. Take your giftings test on week 3. If you haven't been through growth track, you need to get your butt through growth track. If you're new around here, hey, you want to find out the first few weeks, like, who are we? What are we all about as a church? What's the foundational beliefs of what we believe? Pastor Manny, Jared, all Pastor Brian. You get to hear from different people within the leadership of this church. It's not just Laura and I going, hey, we're great. It's people that have been here a long years and seen life change and see when you actually do what I'm preaching this morning, there's people that can say, yeah, it's true. It works. I've seen it. It worked for me. It's gone on in my life. I've seen it working in his life. This stuff changes things. Romans gives a little glimpse into some of the giftings. Chapter 12, verse 4 says, for just as each of us has one body with many members, and these members do not all have the same function, so in Christ we, though many, form one body, and each member belongs to all the others. We have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us, all right? Different gifts according to the grace in which God has given each of us. If it is your gift, if your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance with your faith. If it is serving, then serve. If it is teaching, then teach. If it is to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, then give generously. If it's to lead, then do it diligently. If it's to show mercy, then do it cheerfully. So here on the screen, let me just show you a list of those. Serving, teaching, encouraging, giving, leading, mercy, prophecy. That's not by any means an extensive list or an exhaustive list of the giftings. You have to take that giftings test, week 3 Growth Track, if you want to go into more depth. But for the sake of this morning, leave that up for a moment, because I think it's best illustrated through a bag of Skittles, right? Your giftings, whatever they might be, are a lot like this bag of Skittles, right? And so, I just want to share this bag of Skittles, and I think there's enough for every single person here to get one, right? Don't be greedy, all right? So I'm just going to open this bag of Skittles up, and we're each going to get one bag of Skittles, okay? That's tragic. Nobody's getting Skittles. And if you would eat the Skittles, you got the gift of disgusting. All those worship feet up here over and over again every single week. Stage often gets forgotten. But think about, I'm just kidding, it doesn't. They sweep it, they mop it, I'm joking. It's the sake of the illustration, people. But think about it. When those Skittles hit the ground, what was your first response in your mind? Yeah. Gift of disgusting, yep. But listen, if you were thinking to yourself, oh my God, where's a broom? I need a broom, get a broom. Somebody get a broom. Can we get that? You got the gift of serving. Right? If you were thinking to yourself, Pastor Brandon, you know what? I've done a study on Skittles, and they're basically chemicals and sugar, and for every Skittle you put in your body, you take off a minute of your life. You probably have the spiritual gift of teaching. If you immediately thought, oh my God, I just want to tell them, I've done that before. I have opened a bag of chips all over the ground. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay, Pastor. Next bag of Skittles, you'll nail it. You probably have the gift of encouraging, right? If you were like, man, you know what? I'm gonna bring 50 bags of Skittles next week. Everybody's gonna get a Skittle. I'm gonna rain down Skittles up in this place next week. Or if you're like the person who we sent to the store to get a bag of Skittles, they bought the mini sizes so that everybody could enjoy. You might have the gift of giving, generosity, right? And it wouldn't matter if I open this bag and they spill everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Because then you could just rain down Skittles. Rain them down, Sal. You don't have to eat the dirty ones. Don't eat dirty Skittles. Now, if you saw the Skittles hit the ground and you were like, hey, where's an usher? Somebody get an usher. You need to clean this up. Somebody with a broom, someone with a pan. Right now, this is unacceptable. You probably have the gift of bossing people, which is called leading. And if you were like, you are such an idiot, why would you open the Skittles that way? Because it's an illustration. You probably have the gift of telling the truth, which is prophecy. It's hearing from God, speaking truth, not really an idiot. You wouldn't say that. Last but not least, if you saw the Skittles hit the ground and me fumbling around, you're just like, he just needs a hug. You probably have the gift of mercy, kindness. So never know until you explore what God has placed within you, right? To serve. What does it look like? What does it look like? What is the mentality of an owner at Rebel who serves? What does it look like, right? It's like, look, and there's some babies over there that need to be rocked. I got this. Right, there's some youth, man. I remember when I was a youth, and I went through some things, and I would hate it if there's a young man or a young woman out there who walked through some of the things that I walked through and didn't have a voice in their life to say, hey, it's gonna be okay. I've been there. Don't give up. I got this. If there's somebody out there, then you know what, man? Parking is a mess on Sunday mornings, man. They only got 3 guys out there, and we could really get this thing rolling, and we could get first-time guests in all the spots, and we could welcome and walk them up so they felt welcome and got a true welcome and didn't get forgot. Man, I got this. I can do it. I can do it. Man, I just got my braces off, and I got my teeth whitened, and I can smile like the best of them. And they need some people smiling, and I know how to shave. And I know how to make sure my hair is done so I look presentable. I can stand there and smile and welcome some people into this place. I got this. I got this. Why? I'm an owner. Yo, God has blessed me. Right, when I see somebody struggling and I'm listening to the voice of God and I'm praying and I'm waking up and looking for opportunity and I'm at the gas station and it looks like this person is struggling. They're putting in 99 cents worth of change in there. God has blessed me. I got this. I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna respond. When it looks like somebody is having a bad day, when I got an employee or somebody who works for me or works with me and they're going through it, or I know they're going through it and it's difficult, it might be an awkward and a hard conversation, I got this. Why? Because it's not about me. And I might look foolish and I might not know what to say, but at least I'm doing something. I can't do everything, but I can do something. And so many of us, our lives would be so much better if we would just do something. This is what it looks like here at Rebel. You can see on the slide that's about to pop up, from the youngest, you got Romeo down here serving. You got our youth there serving. You got Ramsey, Maryland serving. Back to school outreach, partnering with the food bank, dropping off turkeys, backpacks, giving haircuts. People at the door, people and kids, that's what it looks like in reality. We come together and we serve as God's church, like Matthew 5 says. He says, you are the light of the world. Why hide it? You are the light of the world, the church, God's church, his glorious church here, there, where you are the light of the world. Why are you going to try and hide that? Because when you shine, it says it draws all men, women, and children unto him. And when we serve the least of these, and when we serve the best of these, and we serve our family, and we serve outside these walls, we bring heaven to earth. You're not just a teacher, you're not just an engineer, you're not just a bus driver. You are someone who brings heaven to earth, whether you're in here or out there. You have something inside you specifically that God has placed in you for your family. Only you can give to your kids what God has put in you as their father, as their mother. You have something specifically that God has put in you that your friends need, that your coworkers need, that your neighborhood needs. See, a lot of people like to say, you know what? Well, I just live the gospel. That's true. You can live the gospel, and the gospel can show in what you do. But gospel can be lived, but it also has to be spoken. Jesus said it. The Spirit of the sovereign God is upon me, for he has anointed me to what? Preach good news. Preach. What does that mean? That just means speak the truth of God over people, over situations. So I can live and I can serve, but guess what? I gotta speak. Why? Because people need the dots connected for them. I'm so glad you showed up. The vibes and the karma are just so good right now. No, that's God. through his son Jesus, let me just tell you, karma, vibes, whatever. People need the dots connected. Oh, that's such a good, thank you so much for the flowers. Thank you so much for noticing that I lost this person or I was going through this. Oh, you're welcome. No, hey, I just wanted you to know that God loves you. The gospel must be showed and spoken. Proverbs 3:27, do not withhold good from those who deserve it when it's in your power to help them. God says, if you can do it, then do it. That's why I've blessed you in that way. If you can bless this person, if you see a need and this person deserves it, then bless them if it's in your power. Don't tell them go away and come back tomorrow. Do it now. Because the reality is this, if you're not serving, you're missing out. You really are. If you're not serving, you're missing out. I'm looking at Keith right here. And Keith, you've been here since the theater days, right? Yeah. But recently started serving about a year ago? Yeah. Has it changed your life? Yeah. Keith, he's been here 5 or 6 years before that, but I've never gotten to know Keith in the way that I have in the last year. Why? Because there's a unity when we come together and we have a common goal and a common cause, which is to lift Jesus up. Not that we didn't have it before, but Keith was going through his own things and had things going on. And now that he's in the mix, I was missing out on that relationship with Keith. And you're missing out on so many great relationships within the family that God has planted you. Because you think, I don't have any gifts. You don't know because you ain't been to Growth Track week 3. Listen, don't just take my word for it. Don't just believe me. Check out some people who call this church home and what they have to say about serving.
Hey, I'm Rachel.
I'm Dustin. I started serving on a team first. I watched the ushers and what they were doing, and it seemed like something I would enjoy, just being in the mix without, if you're doing it right, nobody even notices that you're there. So the main thing is that we're serving God through, whatever little means it is, from plunging the toilet to hanging the sports banner sign out in front of the church. And it's whatever needs to be done that day needs to be done, and oftentimes it falls on us, and I love the fact that we're kind of the last line of defense against that stuff. I joined the ushers first, so as a result, we had to start showing up a little earlier. So Rachel was just kind of standing around twiddling her thumbs till service opened up. So she talked to the welcome team about joining at that point.
I love being on welcome team. I love our welcome tent outside. It just allows me to get to know people and the people coming into Rebel every Sunday. I can learn faces and names. I can make connections with people. I think it's just an amazing gift to be able to connect with these people walking through the doors at Rebel every day. We started coming to Rebel originally because our relationship and our engagement was very rocky, and we were struggling, we were fighting almost every day. It was just not a very good relationship. It wasn't healthy.
During COVID, Rachel was a teacher, so she was at home all day alone, and I was still out working, and it was a stressful time because my phone wasn't ringing as much. And now, having brought God into our household and into our relationship as much as we have, and spending as much time together as we do now, I always tell her that I know her better than she knows her. And it's true. I do, but it's because we spend so much time together, because we're not at odds with each other like we were before we started coming. There was unquestionably a God-shaped hole in our relationship, and coming to Rebel and continuing to come and joining teams and adding, coming to Youth Wednesdays and joining Rebel U on Thursdays. It's a 30-minute drive from our house, but we're happy to make it 2 to 3 to 4 times a week. So since joining all those teams, we have become tremendously closer.
We also don't have our girls every single Sunday, so the days that we do have them, when they get to see us serve, it encourages them to serve as well. And so Autumn is wanting to serve in the kids area, and she really wants to work with the little kids in there. And then Addison is really excited to help out on welcome team and kind of follow me around in the morning and see what our Sundays look like. And they also know that we're here. And so, you know, we serve the Lord in our house. And I think that's a super important thing to continue with the girls, especially because we don't have them all the time. So the time that we do have them, we want to be as impactful as possible. To the person that's not sure if they want to hop on a team yet, I would say just do it. I'm a very introverted person, so joining welcome team was out of my comfort zone. I'm out there, I'm welcome people, but within that time period, I have made so many friends and so many people that I know that if I needed anything, that they would be here for me, they would be willing to help me, they would give me the shirt off their back to just be there. So just do it.
God gave you a gift, and it may not be to be on the stage doing worship, but he gave you a gift so that you can serve his kingdom. And there's, you know, JJ always says it, he's not serving Rebel Church, we're serving God. And we are serving God through Rebel Church. And I mean, for the grace he's given us and everything he's done for us, there's no reason not to.
Well, there you go. Two people that 2-3 years ago, they were not church people. They were not church people. Matter of fact, Rachel worked with Bree. They knew each other. Bree said, like, not a church person. Doesn't come from a church family. Now Rachel is one of our welcome team lead. Dustin's lead in ushers. I'm telling you, it's not just church speak. It's gospel. Jesus' example that he laid as he sat among those disciples who were like, look, I'm the great. Who's the great? I'm the greatest. Jesus said, no. You've got proud hearts, boys. And there's a lot of dirty feet to wash. So stop focusing on you and what you have or don't have, what you can or can't do, and just do. And that's why we dedicated a whole month to serving. And you're going to get to hear stories from others in this church who have been impacted by serving God through building his kingdom at Rebel Church. It's important because the reality is this, is that we, Rebel Church, cannot do in here or out there what God has called us to do without you. Without you, we are not the church. Without you, without my dream is that every single person sitting in this place, every single person that's on vacation this week and will be back next week, every single person that's watching online, every single person that hasn't shown up here yet, that will be coming here because you're going to invite them sometime in the near future, every single person would serve in some capacity. We're not asking you to serve every single week. We're just asking you to take a step and see what God does. That's it. And I'm telling you what, there will be people who welcome you in with open arms. And your life will never be the same. Everything won't change, but it's a step towards spiritual maturity. It's a step toward life change.